Yeah, it's lit up.
Okay.
All right. Call to order. Adoption of the agenda. Anybody got any additions? I'm going to add one under old business, and that's the business license business we were talking about last time. I'll ask Barry to speak to it. That's about the OMG and the organized crime group. It was an action item in the minutes, so I put it under old business. Anyone to move the agenda as amended?
I'll move.
Thomas, thank you. Barry, second. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that is adopted. You have the minutes of the last meeting. Any errors or omissions that we should attend to? Hearing none. Motion to adopt the minutes.
Jen,
Jen, thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Thomas. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Mandy just sent me a message. I thought I was going to be able to sign on, but we've had a major hit of variant cases today, so I can't make it. So she sends her apologies for the record. Minutes, reports. Chair, I don't have anything to add. I'm still working with that advisory committee related to provincial police as they're delivered by the RCMP, and that's ongoing. I have a meeting next week on that, but nothing at a local level. So that's my report. Next item, council report, please.
you bet, Terry. I guess things of note that have been discussed and will be coming up. Calgary Regional Metropolitan Board will probably become top of the news over the next 4 weeks or so. That was a mandated board by the province for regionalization around Calgary and also around Edmonton. There's a plan on the table going forward. Obviously, it's a contentious topic, in particular with I'm going to say rural municipalities around Calgary not supporting it. So it'll be interesting over the next when that vote comes up, how it comes to play. The concern is if it doesn't pass, that the province, of course, will obviously mandate something. So are we?
You're frozen there. Hello?
It's fine at my end, so.
Have you got it at your end? Okay. Of course we have, then you may have already done so, but we need to
Better to be
consider
in
the,
charge of our own desks, funds related to COVID to support a number of things within our facilities and operations, as well as the library and things like that. So that was a good injection of cash to help. The town plan, which is one of our major documents that kind of guides us as we go forward, is due for a review. So we've been looking at that. We agree that it does need to have it revised. We want it to be looked at a much different lens than in past. It's a very long, arduous document that not many people probably look at or know exists, and it's intended for not only town council administration, but also residents to engage in. So we would like to see a document, maybe that be two-part, a shorter version and a longer version, that really does become the community's plan. So we are going to be looking at putting together, I believe, some steering committees. So if anyone has any interest in that, or there'll be lots of public engagement over the next probably 18 months or so. Land use bylaw again was revised in 2017, a much different bylaw than any other municipality had ever seen. It was one of a kind and award winning. And so we've just recently, we're doing a review of that. We had committed to knowing how different it was and knowing some of the challenges that might come up, that we needed to take a real close look at that over the last 3 years and look at reviewing and updating anything that we saw their gaps or needed to change. So that's currently underway. Center Street Bridge is going to get some work done. We hope if we can get a tender at the right price. So there will be some minor interruptions there. I don't anticipate anything too long. There'll be some work underneath bearings, that kind of stuff, and painting the railings and that on the deck. Other things, surplus. Thanks to COVID, we had a surplus last year's budget, which we are taking forward. We're going to use that to reduce diversion to utilities. We had a number of funds from many years ago being diverted to help cover the utility program, and it should be self-sufficient. So this surplus will help us get very close to that, which is crucial, I think, going forward for our financial viability. Only other thing, and the volunteer appreciation, once again, is going to fall on the same night as our next meeting, which is fine. But if anyone has anyone they would like to nominate, just go to the website or any of the town socials and looking for nominations for some of our volunteer stars. So unless there's any questions, that's kind of it.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? I have I guess it's a comment, but just maybe an alert. The whole regional police, I know regionalization has been a hot potato for a long time. I don't know if regionalization of policing has been erased in that, but we should be very careful that we don't even hint that we want to be policed by the Calgary police. I think we should have a Foothills County Regional Police and a Rocky View Provincial Police, and I could spend several hours explaining why, but I just give you an alert that we don't want to go down there. And I know there was a committee, and I was asked to provide some paperwork to one of the members of that particular committee, and that's pretty much what I told them. And I think ours is what's his name, the balloon guy. Isn't he on that committee?
Jamie, you mean?
Jamie, I couldn't remember his name. I wasn't being.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he is on that. You're absolutely right. He's on that.
We should be very careful how we tread there.
Yeah. I certainly haven't heard a lot of discussion about that. The primary focus of this, especially in these initial stages, is all growth.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, then. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. Thank you, Kathy. Police report, please. Great.
Okay, so just going through the report. Firstly, we have a couple vacancies coming up. So we have one vacant corporal position. The second one, Blair Schneider, is going to go off to N West. So he's going to start there on the 26th. His last day is Tuesday, the 23rd. That's going to leave us two vacant NCO positions. I'm going to guess for a while it's going to be. As of right now, they're having issues with the promotional exams. So they're not going to be advertising any promotions until at least May. Pardon me. So that would affect our Turner Valley candidate. So Tiffany's coming from Turner Valley. So likely they'll hold on to her as long as they can before they ship her over. And then we'll be waiting on paperwork for a fella in Cold Lake. And that's going to be subject to him selling his house. So that could be quick, could be not. We have the one fella coming back from mat leave. We were advised that Jason was supposed to come back 1st of April. He's likely going to be 2 or 3 months longer in Claire's home. Long story, a bit of an issue with the promotional process that of the individual who got promoted into that spot. It's being reviewed. So it could take another few months to settle that out. We're in the process. We have a short list, I think, established pretty much for the vacant municipal employee spot. So we should see some traction on that pretty soon. Over the last little while, we finished our APP. I'll speak to that tonight. We did get our first radio show up and running. It was just an introduction to the concept, which is good. And so now moving forward with the blog, we'll be soliciting the questions, and then we'll have about, I think it's a half-hour show that we're going to speak to whatever issues are brought to us from the community. So it speaks to community consultation to an extent, which is nice, and also gives us the ability to kind of screen out stuff that likely doesn't need to be addressed. We did speak to seatbelt safety there during the first radio meeting. Cody Willoughby from the traffic services there was stepped in for that. And I think that's about it. We're looking good on the constable side. So with a couple of our constables acting in the corporal spots, I don't think we'll see any kind of service delivery issues. We'll float along until we get some corporals in. During the reporting period, been busy in the school zones. We've made that a priority. So I know the guys were out so far in March. They've been out in the school zone 34 times. So we biggest things this month, Mental Health Act. We've had 5 of their complaints so far this month. And by and large, within the police communities, we're finding that mental health, especially in the wake of COVID, has increased. And so we're getting more of those complaints. So we expect to deal with that a little bit more, and we are addressing that moving forward this year again. Not much to go on. We had a drug charge. There has been a fundamental change. If I haven't spoken to it before, the Crown Prosecutor's Office has decreed that simple possession of any kind of controlled substance, whether it be cocaine, meth, if it's simple possession, they're not going to be charging for it. So it's going to be a no case seizure. So we're kind of stepping away from just minor possession charges. We had a robbery yesterday in town tied to 2 individuals that have been identified in Calgary. So we're going to be working with the Calgary police with that. It was a scam in which a telephone was put up for sale on a Facebook page. They agreed to meet here in High River, and basically there was a Slurpee thrown in the victim's face and the phone was grabbed and buddy drove away. So robbery, not the most violent robbery, but it's still a robbery. And they were tied to 2 other offenses that occurred in the city. And I believe we have an identity of them. So we're going to be working towards that. We've had a few frauds, and the frauds we're getting it's usually the same kind of frauds being perpetrated. It's I need iTunes cards or gift cards to pay for this, that, or the other thing. Usually we're getting a report. People will come to the counter, or they'll be saying, hey, I've been told that I have warrants for my arrest due to my taxes or whatnot. And I would say the vast majority, people don't give any money. They come to the police station first and they do ask, and we can direct them that, no, this is fraudulent. Jill Mills has worked with our COPs and she is now in possession of some stop signs. They're little stop signs she had made up that they're going to be posted at all the gift card stations in town, as well as at the tills is what she plans. And basically it says if you're being told to pay for anything with a gift card, then you should be calling the police. So it's been actually latched onto by the majority, like a bunch of other COP groups have kind of heard about it. So it might actually expand out a little bit, which is nice. We reviewed with regards to the APP, we did review the survey and our results, and we had just over 100 survey responses. We were able to kind of formulate, we're kind of on the same track. Overall, within High River, crime is, as you've seen, it's on the down, it's going down. That's consistent across Canada with COVID. Property crime and crimes of the like have usually dropped. They're starting to increase again now. And again, mental health has kind of been the crux. I'll walk into the annual performance plan as we've kind of created it. I've had a chance to walk through it with, Peter's had a look at it. And kind of on our way here, we've had district has taken a look at it and they've approved it on this end. So now we're just going to be looking to have the CAO's input as well. After speaking to you, we'll look for your input. And if there's any changes to be done, we'll go in that direction. So bear with me here. So the primary concerns, again, from the survey and from the members in the community, I spoke to the peace officers as well. And speed enforcement, traffic in general as a safety issue, whether that would be a perceived issue or an actual issue, it raises its head quite regularly here in town. And that's something that we're going to seek to address. The second one would be police visibility. It's always a big thing. And you tie visibility, obviously, to the fact that if people see you out and about, it's a deterrence to crime, but it also sets people's minds at ease. Property theft. There was a kind of a disparity on that. We could have gone with drugs, but from our standpoint in the policing and what we're seeing, we don't see it as being the issue that's being perceived by the community. Is there drugs in the community? Yes. Are we addressing it and aware of it? Yes. So we didn't make it a priority in the plan. And then a standalone issue that we're going to handle in-house is we're going to try and enhance our mental health capacity and capabilities with the detachment members. So with regards to the whole plan in general, the KISS method works when it comes to planning and APP. The more robust you get, if you get these great grandiose plans, a lot of times they're hard to track, they're hard to maintain. So you try and keep things kind of a little tighter, easier. But with regards to speed, we are going to do let me just try to read through how I have this set up. There you go. So we're going to do our playgrounds and school zones. Again, that's going to be a focus of ours. It's good. The members are actually really good here at being out on the road and doing that. They'll take time during their shifts. Obviously, like we've been standardly hitting good numbers. I think we tracked for 240 or 250 this past year to be logged, and we've well exceeded that. So we're going to look for at least 300 school zone and playground patrols. And with that comes, you can tie those into your laser operations, but it gets you the visibility in the high risk areas and the areas that people are concerned with when it comes to speed. Laser operations, we're going to bump them up a little bit. And we are going to try and work more hand in hand with the peace officers this year. We'd like to get them involved with us so that we're seen as working together in the community. Just keep reading here. We're going to be addressing the speed priority, or sorry, the traffic priorities in accordance with the divisional traffic calendar through media releases. So we'll address speed during the year, but we'll also be addressing traffic safety issues through Jill and her media releases. So kind of keeping an education piece before the community. And I'm going to work with Peter. Anytime we receive a hotspot area, we're going to look to the town to try and employ the speed spy, or we'll do some documenting ourselves, put out members and try and get hard data to see if we are actually having these issues or it's a perceived issue. I sat on High Country Drive there the other day and did some radar for a while, and just the highest speed was 54. And I sat there for a good 45 minutes to an hour. So I had a good range of vehicles. But that being said, on that avenue, if you're standing on the side of the road or you're watching vehicles come at you, there is a perception of speed, I think, just the way the avenue is set up. So a vehicle going 50 kilometers an hour usually probably looks faster than it's actually going. So that's why it would be important for the speed spy, so we can have some actual hard data to support or not support, for that matter. With regards to visibilities, we are going to incorporate foot patrols as something that we're going to track this year. Last warm weather stint, I had the members out quite regularly doing foot patrols. They actually quite enjoy doing it. Entailed in that is going to be requirement to be in the businesses, so not just walking on the streets. You need to go in the businesses. We're going to have to talk to business owners. So we're going to get the information, hopefully, from the business community. Hey, we have an issue here. We got that a little bit last year. Hey, there's somebody who parks here all the time. And these are things that we can kind of address. You might not get reported to you, but being and speaking to them, it comes to light. And as in the same vein, foot patrols within the residential areas. And that's important too. And we did a little bit of that this year. Going in, if somebody's in their garage, having a chat with them, and we found that was very valuable. People quite enjoyed that, and you do get information that helps out. We're going to piggyback on with some bike patrols. We want to be out on the happy trails this year, so having a presence out there, I think, is important for us. I think Peter and I have actually spoken at one point of looking at maybe mapping in the area in behind the golf course, there where all the mountain bikes are going. And therefore, and setting that up. So if there's an injury out there, how do we get there, etc. But I think even putting guys out there once in a while to ride around and just interact with the public. We're going to do our enhanced visibility shifts. COVID really kicked us on this one. We did step up a few shifts, but we want to do 4. I call them a shake and bake at the office. And basically we reschedule everyone to a night shift, usually an evening or night shift, and you're target focused. So we're going to look at habitual offenders this night. We're going to go check on warrants. And then you're just going to basically be out and interacting with the public in a high volume way so that you're kind of seen everywhere. Usually it gets a buzz on the rant and rave, whether that be good or bad. And we do actually get some results from that. Last one we executed a bunch of warrants. I think I gave you the stats on that. And we want to do an emergency services open house this year. So I'm going to seek to partner up with the peace officers and like fire services, EMS in town, and try and do an emergency services open house so we can have the public come to some kind of a barbecue or something like that, kind of have some one-on-one time with us. If I'm cutting out, let me know, just wave. So we have hospitality budgets that we can tap into for that. So we're going to look at doing that. Sorry, I'm just flipping through here so I don't miss anything. A third priority that we talked about was we're going to address vehicle theft, like theft of motor vehicles. And what we want to do is we want to maintain the status quo. We want to keep our numbers where they're at. The reason we kind of thought vehicle thefts was a good one is it ties well to theft from vehicles as well. So if you're secure with your vehicle and it's not getting stolen, you're likely not getting anything stolen from your vehicle either. So we're going to look at, again, we didn't get to roll it out this past year due to COVID, but COPs are on board with doing the lock it or lose it program. We want to do some education and awareness through the media with regards to this. We are going to step up our offender management. We don't actually have a lot of offenders in town to manage, but we do have a system in place and we're going to continue with that, in which we are ensuring that curfew checks are done, condition checks are being done on our offenders. We want to make, not that we want to be intrusive on somebody, but we want to make sure that people are adhering to the conditions that the courts release them on, and they're not out and about breaking more laws. And then we are looking at, Calgary has had an anti-idling campaign. And so which they were just doing education to people who had keys in their vehicles that were leaving them running. So we thought we would maybe latch on to that idea, get in touch with them and run something like that. And that will be more predominant, obviously, during the winter when we all leave our vehicles run. So that will prevent theft in and of itself. And last but not least in the plan for the year was just knowing that mental health has made such a rise with us. We're looking at doing a few in-house pieces for it. So what we want to do is we're going to, first of all, get one of our members to develop a comprehensive list for resources and community assets available to us with regards to mental health and addictions counseling or other, kind of all tied together so that we can be a better support with the clients we deal with. If you have different places you can go or reach out to. We still are working on the business case that we're going to put forward to our district level. And our hope is that even though AHS is kind of, from what we've heard, is taking the reins as to where positions are being rolled out, if we put forward a good business case, they may consider the High River area as a possibility to deploy it, say the Foothills County as a test area, which would be good for us. And then we want to bring in a mental health workshop. So we want to engage 1 or 2 sessions with specific mental health people that are geared toward law enforcement and enhancing our capabilities and our understanding and dealing with mental health issues and crisis. And we want to bring them into the detachment and do a couple of sessions of education for the members. Just to, we're stuck on Agora right now, so we learn online for a lot of things, and I don't find that a lot of guys find a lot of value in learning online as much as they do when they get the interaction in person with somebody who's been there, who can give you more stories. You're kind of limited in your scope of what the video gives you, and you can't really ask any questions of it. So in person will be a lot better. So that's kind of our plan, and that again is just to bring up the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the members when it comes to dealing with mental health issues. And that will only enhance our ability to serve our clients better in the community. So that's kind of what we have in a nutshell for the APP. And based on, discussions with Peter and what we've talked about in the before at the meetings, moving forward, if we can look to have some kind of focus group set up in September, I think that would be the ideal time to kind of check the pulse of what we're doing. Like, we'll monitor that through stats and what's happening in crimes and all that. But just to meet with the community in another fashion in September, perhaps, and have that ability to make sure we're on track. It is a living document and it is subject to change whenever we think it needs to change. So if something rears its head and we need to address that, then that's what we'll do. So that's what I got.
Okay, thank you. Anybody questions, comments for Greg? That was very good, Greg. Thank you.
I just have a couple questions, Harry. Thank you. Greg, I just thought it was interesting, just your perspective on it. On that survey, I think I was just looking for it and can't find it. Personal safety was, I think, I know it's all low percentages, but one of the highest. And I find that interesting because it's not like we hear of a lot of incidents in our community where someone's personal safety was impacted. Any rationale why that would be? Is just we're just a cautious or worrisome society, or?
Yeah, it's hard to answer that question based on the stats. When it comes to violent crime, like High River there's hardly none of it in the community. Like the last robbery we had was last year, and that was at the Circle K, and up until now. And I mean, this was a robbery technically, but it was kind of more of a theft than it was, you'd have to associate the violence of throwing a Slurpee at somebody. It makes it a robbery. But aside from that, no, I can't see the correlation to the safety here in town. I think you can go anywhere in town and feel safe at pretty much any hour. So.
Yeah, I just thought it was an odd number. Just a question, just in general, have you had any formal complaints or heard anything about a local limousine company following people? I understand my son and both his wife experienced different separate incidents, and I hear it was all over rant and rave at some point. And I was just curious if there's been any official.
Yeah, we're dealing with one of the only town. So basically, there's some concern with people operating with that company in which they feel somebody has maybe jaywalked, broken the law or something. They will kind of make it their point of letting them know and following them around a little bit. So we have been working with the company there and talking to them with regards to, call us or you could deal with it in a better way. Don't police it yourself, kind of thing. So.
Yeah, the one incident was a mom and her two little ones under 2. She was scared to death. So. Yeah.
Aware of the company. So. All right. The mayor is aware of the company as well.
Thanks. Uh-oh.
Any other questions or comments? I've got one or two here, Greg, if I can.
Sure.
It's page 7 of, page 7 of 13, I think it is, on that survey there. And it says, it's question 6. Thinking about things you've listed in questions above, please list 3 priorities. Now, I may have missed something. Then it says answer choices 1, 2, 3, no descriptor there. And then it's got 100%, 81. But what were the 3 priorities? Because it's not clear to me.
Yeah, the 3 priorities, you're not wrong with. I had to go through all the documents, so I didn't get the answer from that page. We took the answers from basically the concerns and just kind of went through all the concerns throughout the responses. And I've actually read the entire answers of all the survey. So that's kind of where we got our numbers for our priorities. Like within specific concerns for your neighborhood, property crime was very high, and this is page 6. Vehicle traffic was high. lack of police presence was high. So those are the biggest ones, followed by illicit drug use. But yeah, I understand your question, and I don't have an answer on what those numbers are, how they got there. I didn't get that. Peter,
right.
do you?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, and I'd have to go back and have a look at it. And I know we were kind of drawing info off of a couple different surveys. There was a little bit of info from the budget survey that was done. That there's a little bit on policing there, and then of course the survey we put out in January. I'd have to look at the data closer.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any questions on that topic? I have another one here, and maybe generates conversation. I don't take issue with the priorities you have. In fact, I like them. But hypothetically, it's been approved by various people and the divisional commanders and things like that. What if somebody here or as a group said, well, we don't like that? What would happen? And where I'm getting at is, I know it's been an unusual year, and we've heard that term so many times. And time is an issue in these things. But other people here may disagree with me. But I would have thought it would come through the committee before it goes to other places, because it's a little difficult for this committee to disagree with 3 or 4 people whoever you spoke to. I'm not being critical here. I'm just raising it as an issue, and maybe it will be a little easier to do it that way next year. So,
Yeah, no worries. So district approval, I have to have district approval regardless. So I gave a blueprint to them to say, this is where I have a timeline that I have to have it done in.
Yeah.
And so those are our basic tenets. They're like, yeah, those look okay, go back. But that doesn't negate the fact that I had to bring it to Peter to take a look at. It has to go to the CAO yet to look at. I'm considering what I'm reading to you is, this is my draft of my APP that I'm proposing. And if there are concerns or issues that we think or was brought up that brought to my attention, I thought there was a change, that's definitely, this is not set in stone yet.
okay.
It's
all right.
still, and it still has to go to, like, again, the CAO hasn't seen it yet. The mayor hasn't seen it yet. It hasn't been presented to council yet. So when I say this is what we've come up with, this is my proposal. And I fully expect that if there was some consideration to be given here tonight, that it would be brought forward. And yeah, would entertain, obviously, any kind of questions or concerns or ideas.
Okay, that's fair. Can we all get a written copy of what it is? I know you ran down them. Can you email that out to us, and we'll funnel it back either through Angie or Peter? If we have any comments, if you get no feedback, I guess we agree with it. Is that fair to anybody else? Everybody else? Yeah, I take it as yes. Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Anybody else got any other questions? As you know from my background, I'm very interested in what happens in the mental health field and their interactions with police officers. I don't need to know great details of the ones you had recently, but how were they resolved? You take them somewhere, or take them home, or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, quite normally with our mental health, it's a little problematic here in our community, in the fact that there are no peace officers employed at the hospital here for us. So we can't say in Edmonton, you can go to any hospital to have a peace officer employed. You drop off your Form 10, they secure them for you until they see a physician. We don't have that option. So if we're going to actually take somebody in, we actually have to run them into Calgary, and we have to kind of sit with them until such time as they get booked in at one of our approved facilities. There's a number within the province that we can take them to. So that's time consuming for us. That certainly happens from time to time. If we form somebody, we're going to do that. A lot of other times, if we have somebody who's, suicidal or thinking of harming themselves in some way, one of the options we have is a voluntary, we talk to them and ask them, are you willing to go to the hospital? And if they're willing to go, then we're not required to apprehend them under the Mental Health Act and care for them. So if they'll go willingly in an ambulance, we'll facilitate it that way. And then we have been, at times, we'll reach out, I think it's the PAC team in Calgary. We've been in consultation with them once or twice with regards to somebody who might be frequenting both of our communities and looking for some assistance. We do have some mental health positions within the RCMP here in the province, so we have liaised a little bit with them as well. So again, we're building. I think we could have more for us here in the community. I think it lacks a little bit considering what we have for resources, but it's not terrible. In the Crow's Nest Pass, I had to, it was Lethbridge or Calgary, we had to run someone to, and usually you have one person working. So it's a little different here. We're usually pretty good in being able to manage that. And yeah, and some of them are just going in and chatting with somebody. A lot of them, someone might have had a suicidal comment on a social media, and that gets brought to our attention, and you'll go and chat with somebody, and and through speaking to them. And this is what you get as a police officer is, I'm not a mental health worker, but we do our best to assess the situation. And if somebody comes across as there's no appearance here that they're going to harm themselves, they're just having a bad day, then we would just advise them of maybe some options for future for them, some resources, and then kind of conclude the file at that.
Okay, well, thank you, Greg. Thanks. Any follow-up questions, comments? Hearing none. Again, thank you, Greg. Admin, please.
Yeah, you bet, Terry. Not a lot to update this month. In your package, or actually, I sent it out, I believe yesterday, was the stats for January and February for municipal enforcement, and just kind of a breakdown of the type of issues and investigations they had. Generally, they were actually pretty busy January, February, and they're starting to find that things are starting to pick up as compared to what the experience was in 2020, where call volumes were down for the most part across all the months. They're seeing that things are starting to get more calls, lots of things related to the Good Neighbor bylaw, and where we suspect we're going to start to see some unsightly property stuff now that the snow has disappeared. And we've had, just from a staffing standpoint, a couple officers were, our two guys were off on injury and light duty. One of them is back now, but we're going to be down one of our guys for a little while on light duty. So we'll have one officer flying solo. We'll see how the call volume goes and how he manages as we go through. So it'll be primarily a focus on complaints based and trying to be out in the community as much as possible. Greg had mentioned some mapping and signage that it hasn't been a project I've been working on, but I've been helping out with it, is getting some signage into some higher user areas along the berm and through along Happy Trails and the parks, where if something was to happen, people actually don't know where they're located. And so they've been working on a project for signage, and we've had some ideas, and I think it's a bigger project that we want to look at for the River Valley and actually map it out completely and look at waypoints and access in an emergency. But in the meantime, there are about 4 spots that we've been able to put together some mapping signage. We're going to have a bit of a street address that associates with it for an access, but we'll also give it a lat and long that through dispatch, we'll be able to actually put a marker on the mapping for those locations if an emergency happens. So this one's been kind of talked about for a while. Fire and I had a look at it last year, and we kind of ventured through the river valley to kind of look at the topography and some of the challenges, because there isn't a lot of natural natural or existing landmarks. And for some first responders, it's a little bit tough knowing how to get into an area and so on. So so that's kind of working its way through with some signage. Speed Spy, I've had it out this past week, and I don't have the data, but I'm gonna collect some more data for the same location. And when we meet again next month, I'll bring that data forward. I'll tell you where I'm looking. It's on First Street Southeast, basically between 12th and 3rd. We had one complainant talk about how, with all the work on Center Street, lights and bump outs, there was a feeling that traffic has been now migrating over to First because there's no stop signs between 12th and 3rd, and it's a fairly wide road, and vehicles, the feeling was vehicles were traveling pretty fast along there and higher volumes. It's not a well lit area, but from a municipal enforcement, and I've chatted with Greg, we're not really sure there's been any big issues there. There hasn't been any accidents or near misses that we're aware of. But we're going to keep an eye on it, and I've chatted with Chris, our CEO, about it, and it might be something we'll have to look at if we feel that it's increasing volume along that road off of Center. But we'll see what the Speed Spy data looks like and go from there.
If I can, while you're on that subject,
yeah,
it's a bit of a challenge sometimes as a pedestrian crossing from the side of the track, the track side, the east side, and onto 3rd and 4th and 5th and the like. So they come like crazy, and you don't think they're ever going to stop. But most times they stop, but not always. So I just add that to it. So.
Yeah, you're probably referring to First Street Southwest, and that area.
Yeah. Oh,
I was, over towards where Highwood Distillers are, and that road. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good point for in the near the downtown, and it does get pretty congested, lots of traffic, and along McLeod as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Other than that, yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. If there's unless there's questions for me.
Questions, comments? Hearing none. Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
We have no report from Youth Justice today for obvious reasons. COP, please.
You bet. Thank you. It's Bob Denny again. And thank you to Greg for providing most of the COP report. That was great. Thank you. Just to elaborate a little bit, yes, the project that High River COP was kicking off with Constable Mills on the stop signs for gift card purchases. Alberta Citizens on Patrol is looking to take that province-wide potentially. So we're in conversations with them around funding that. We, of course, since it was an idea born here in High River, we want to be able to keep some of the control in High River, specifically with the printing of those signs with foothill signs, and make sure recognition for Constable Mills is applied where it can be. So working on that. And then if that doesn't go through, our intention is to expand the program at least to the rest of the foothills and support the other COPs in the area. from a funding perspective. In the event that they don't have funds to pay for the signs, we'll help them out with that. No patrols happening with COP yet, still under COVID protocols for that. Looking forward to getting back on it. And certainly from a speed data perspective, one thing that COP could offer is we have another program besides the Lock It and Lose It called Speed Watch, which is basically a couple of COP members set up with a portable radar sign. And as vehicles go by, we record what the vehicle was and the speed they were traveling, not down to the license plate number, just from a vehicle categorization perspective. That's a program that we've been looking to get off the ground and would love to do so once we can. Maybe we can do that earlier because we can be outside with it at least as the weather improves here. So we would just look for some direction where you'd like us to capture some data and go from there. And then, of course, you also mentioned the Lock It and Lose It campaign. That is one that we'd love to be able to help out in. We just need a member to join us so that we don't get attacked in parking lots as looking in car windows to see if we see anything. So that's where COP is at right now. Looking forward to getting back on patrols. That's all I have from us.
Thanks, Bob. Any questions, comments of COP? Well, thank you again. Old business, Barry, can you speak to that? It was an action item last meeting.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask Terry. I read that when I was reading the notes. Who am I to send that? I guess that disclaimer to in relation to the information I got from Norfolk County. Where should I send that to? Who?
You could probably send it to me, Barry, and then I'll connect with Chris on it and see who how we may who with our business licensing and so on can work on that piece. But yeah, send it my way and I'll figure out who it needs to go to so we can get that one.
Okay.
Barry, would you CC me on that? I'd be interested to see it, please.
Was that to me or?
Yeah, if you copy Kathy as well when you send it to me. Yeah.
Thanks, Barry.
Okay, thanks. Angie
Thanks,
will.
and thanks, Barry, for all your work on that and looking into it and getting the info. It's I think it's a good idea, and anytime we can draw from other locations to improve our processes is pretty good. So appreciate your work on that.
Yeah. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, Peter, but I don't know how it's going to work if you don't change the licensing bylaw, because there'll be no teeth to it. So that's how Norfolk did it. There's a disclaimer in there, and then they amended their licensing bylaw. So I don't think Chris, to be honest with you, I don't think Chris totally understood the process based on how it was explained in last meetings, but that's okay.
Yeah, it might be just small steps, right?
Okay. Angie will carry that as old business for next meeting as well. Thank you. Next item, new business, is the AAPG conference. I think everybody's received some notification of that and the conference program that was attached. I'm just wondering how many can go in terms of dollars and cents, Peter, and how many want to go. There's no travel and no hotel on this time around. And then what is it? You get 6 spots for $500. So can you throw any light on that, Peter, for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to check with the group to get an idea who was interested in attending. Like you said, we can get 6 spots at the $500. I'm assuming, Terry, you're going as part of the committee anyways, and
So I'm not one of the 6.
not one of the 6. And knowing in past years, even though this one's virtual, it's if we can get 6 people to go, I think that would be great. $500 isn't actually too bad for to send 6 people. And so I wanted to kind of reach out to the group here, see who was interested from the committee. And that's I haven't decided if I'll attend, but that's separate. I wouldn't be attending as part of that 6 unless we didn't get the numbers. But I can attend out of my own budget as well.
Anybody interested? I hope so.
Yeah, Jen is. I am.
Thank you, Jen. Barry?
Yeah, I think I am too, Terry. Is it the 18th of April? Is that when it is? Pretty sure, so,
Friday, the 23rd.
pardon me?
Friday, the 23rd of April.
Okay. So who do we notify if we want to go? Who do we send that email to?
Well, given that it's a 500, a 6 can come out of 500, we should probably direct it either to Peter or Angie so they can make the one booking.
Yeah, if you send your interest in attending to Angie, and then we'll if we get over the 6, then we'll figure something out, and but we'll at least start there. And what's the deadline, Terry? I don't have the in front of me.
I'm just looking to see here. On this particular piece of paper that I've got, I mean, Angie could probably get a hold of Victoria and confirm that. I don't have it here. I just printed this piece off. I expect if Mandy's not doing AHS work, she routinely comes to this meeting, so she's likely to be there anyway, even if it's for part of the day, because it is for 7th. Yeah, it's for a chunk of the day anyway, so she might be able to come even partly. So
Okay.
maybe we can, who are we missing? Just 3. Cam, Don, and Mandy. Oh, and Fred. We're missing Fred.
So maybe what we'll do is we'll send out an email to the group, and we'll give you a deadline to submit to us, and then whoever we have by that time, and then we'll have a look and from there at what numbers we have.
Yeah, thanks. That sounds
Okay.
good. Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none. Any other business that we should attend to? Having said that, next meeting, 15th of April, just before the conference, actually. Same time, probably the same place. And your place, I think.
Yeah.
And motion to adjourn.
Jen,
That's a tough one. Jen. Second, Thomas, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thanks,
See you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
yeah.
Bye. Bye.
Aye.